Salem's Lot is Stephen King's second book to be released. On October 17, 1975, Doubleday released the book. Both Jerusalem's Lot, the precursor to the book, and One for the Road, the sequel, are included in King's 1978 short story collection Night Shift as well as in the 2005 illustrated edition of the book. Around this time, the paperback edition of Salem's Lot was released. It quickly became King's second consecutive bestseller and solidified his position as a major horror author. At its foundation, the novel also asked the intriguing yet uncomplicated question: what would happen if vampires arrived in a rural Maine tiny town in the 20th century? Even while it sounds simple, it was quite revolutionary. Additionally, King was at the height of his powers at the time, and all of the elements that continue to make him a great author today were on full display. These elements included the intricate, immersive setting, the visceral scenes of terror and dread, and perhaps most importantly, his ability to create incredibly rich characters, from his lead protagonist to the background residents of an entire small town, instantly making them vivid and heightening the horrors that befall them. But why has it been so challenging to turn one of King's finest books into a fantastic movie, despite two commendable attempts to bring the novel to the screen, with a third on the way? Salem's Lot, 1979, was the first attempt. Naturally, Warner Brothers Pictures quickly acquired the rights to Salem's Lot, with the intention of making it into a significant feature film. King himself did not compose a script, but a number of people did, including its alive director Larry Cohen and in the heat of the night Oscar winner Sterling Siliphant. All of them, however, encountered the issue of condensing a 400-page, or more, novel and large cast of characters into a 2-hour theatrical motion picture, which has subsequently afflicted many a King adaptation. In order to solve the issue, the adaptation was moved from the big screen to television, and Salem's Lot was remade as a 2-part, 4-hour miniseries that aired on 2 consecutive Monday evenings. With the potential exception of prestige TV miniseries like Roots at the time in 1978, they were recorded on TV budgets with TV crews and resources and were not intended to appear as cinematic as contemporary productions like HBO, Prime Video, and Netflix today. David Soul, a well-known TV actor, Bonnie Bedelia, and James Mason, who was the greatest part of the show, and the typical assortment of that guy character actors made up the cast. Reggie Nalder, an Austrian actor, was hired as Kurt Barlow, the principal vampire, replacing Stephen King's intelligent, distinguished-looking vampire with a feral, silent version of Count Orlok from Nosferatu. This choice generated the most controversy. One of the many noticeable differences from the novel is that Barlow only appears in a few moments, making Mason's portrayal of his human helper, Mason, more of the film's main antagonist. Many of the other changes involve combining characters, such as having Bonnie Sawyer have an affair with her boss, realtor Larry Crockett, eliminating the neighborhood electrician she actually becomes involved with, or having Susan Norton's father and the town doctor become one person. This obviously works in terms of compressing the plot into a 3-hour, without commercials, running time, but it also has the cumulative effect of making the town of Jerusalem's Lot look quite deserted, perhaps in combination with cost constraints. The setting is convincingly shown physically, but rather than being a bustling New England neighborhood, it looks to be home to a few 1970s TV stars. The miniseries does benefit from a few genuinely spooky scenes, such as Danny Glick's iconic appearance at Mark Petrie's window, teacher Matt Burke's, Lou Ayres' confrontation with an undead Mike Ryerson, Jeffrey Lewis, in his guest room, and Barlow's entry into the Petrie's kitchen. The miniseries does the plot no favors by excluding characters like Burke and, in particular, Father Callahan, one of King's most complicated anti-heroes. Additionally, unreliable actors like Soul and Kerwin have their excellent moments. Speaking of inconsistency, there are several scenes that are blandly filmed and lighted in the manner of, well, a TV movie of the week for every creepy scene that Hooper manages to pull off. Salem's Lot 79's stronger moments still stand up rather well, but a sizable portion of it hasn't held up well in the more than 40 years after it first aired. The taste and mood of the novel are occasionally captured, but not enough for it to qualify as a great classic like the novel. Salem's Lot, 2004, the second attempt. The 2004 adaptation of Salem's Lot, which was also a 4-hour miniseries and shown on TNT over 2 nights, is peculiar in that it came and went without having an impact on the horror zeitgeist way the 1979 adaptation did. Even though it has been updated from the 1970s to the 2000s, the tale and characters have undergone a number of significant alterations. Rob Lowe plays the lead character Ben Mears, and he does a commendable job, even if it takes a lot of effort for him to project the seriousness necessary to depict the tormented author of the book. Although he still has a connection to the town, his new backstory as a Gulf War veteran is worthless. Although there are some silly additions that are meant to suggest that everyone in Salem's Lot has a secret, but which instead come across as merely superfluous, the miniseries does restore characters like Jimmy Cody and gives others more significance, such as Matt Burke. One significant difference is the return of the power dynamic between Barlow and his personal assistant Straker to that in the novel. Barlow, as portrayed by the great Rutger Hauer, is once more eloquent and more human-looking, and Hauer gives the character a friendly yet menacing air that is more in line with King's vision. Mason's appearance of old-world courtliness is not improved by Donald Sutherland's portrayal of Straker as more really odd. When Father Callahan is played by James Cromwell, you're darn well going to give him more to do than the 1979 series Father Callahan did. Callahan plays a key role once more, and Barlow's decision to hire him as his new servant following Straker's death is an intriguing departure from the novel, in which Callahan just leaves town after losing his faith and consuming Barlow's blood. The 2004 version of Salem's Lot benefits from a generally solid cast, considerably better cinematic compositions by Salem, and some spooky scenes taken directly from the novel, such as an unsettling moment in which vampires are seen swarming the town as Ben and Mark flee. Similar to the 1979 version, it has certain TV-related limitations, although it does a better job of maintaining the mood. The following adaptation was released in 1987 and is titled A Return to Salem's Lot. A Return to Salem's Lot is just a vague sequel to Salem's Lot, which is the first thing that has to be made clear. It isn't even remotely related. At most, it only has the same town's name and the same fundamental premise. A visitor comes to discover the town overrun by vampires. In fact, Larry Cohen has completely broken the continuity of the book/miniseries. Whereas Stephen King and Tobe Hooper had a town in the present suddenly being overrun by a single vampire, and its bite infecting the town's human population, Cohen has the vampires already residing there after arriving on the Mayflower. Salem's Lot seems to have served as Larry Cohen's springboard for his own ideas rather than the basis for a sequel. It should also be noted that the film's video cover prominently incorporates an image of Barlow the vampire from the TV miniseries. Despite this character, nor anything in its resemblance, does not appear in the film. The films of Larry Cohen are renowned for their uncommonly sympathetic sympathy for the monsters as well as Cohen's customarily sarcastic humor and sharp characterizations. In A Return to Salem's Lot, Cohen has the amusing idea that vampires are not the elements of chaos and carnality threatening to tear society apart as they have been since Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1897, but rather more like genteel conservatives who are occasionally reminiscent of a New England country club and trying to maintain the status quo. They are only attempting to convince people that they are normal, as opposed to wanting to swallow the globe. On the negative side, Larry Cohen seems to enjoy joking about with crazy ideas more than really writing the screenplay. A Return to Salem's Lot and It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive, 1987, another Cohen picture that displays signs of a disorganized profusion of ideas and a hurried shooting schedule, were shot back-to-back. Both movies appear hasty and cheesy. The production was obviously hurried, making it impossible for Larry Cohen to do a decent job of directing. Other movies of his, like It's Alive, do a much better job of building tension, but the assault sequences in this movie appear ragged. The one exception is a genuinely frightening sequence where Sam Fuller gets caught in a bear trap at the foot of a flight of steps heading down to the basement just as the vampires start waking up from their coffins. A scruffy-looking vampire creature has been observed briefly roaming the area. What does Salem's Lot 2023 hold for us? The novel completely immerses you in the everyday lives of the residents of this lovely small town, making their one-by-one demise absolutely horrible. This is the main reason why both miniseries based on King's book are decent to good, but not extraordinary. The novel also underlines how, as residents transform into vampires and disappear, the town merely progressively gets smaller each day. Most of the adaptations apart from the 1979 miniseries does a great job of portraying it, and neither one completely develops the relationships that develop between the individuals who are pushed together to form an impromptu squad of vampire hunters, like the main characters of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, which King was greatly influenced by. Their acts in the book have a feeling of increasing urgency that neither series truly captures. A proper adaptation of Salem's Lot, one of Stephen King's best books, is as elusive as the vampires themselves at the moment.